Hello everyone and welcome back to another average, well, this video isn't actually a review like usual. Instead, I'm giving a shelf tour of a bunch of the figures I've been collecting for about 3-ish years. There's a lot of stuff to cover here, so let's just get into it, starting with the top shelf of this display. Starting from the left, we have some very, very recent additions. Some of the LEGO Sonic sets, really just two, the Death Egg Robot, Shadow on his motorcycle, along with the original LEGO Dimensions Sonic head on the recent LEGO Sonic minifigure that came with the Death Egg Robot. Behind them is the Diamond Select Toys Marvel Select Immortal Hulk, because, well, it's just an absolute masterpiece. Next to them is the LEGO Avengers Tower from, I believe, 2020. It's a bit high up, but on the top I have LEGO Cap fighting the LEGO Red Skull on top of the tower, and this LEGO Iron Man flying around, because, well, that's what he does best. Moving down to in front of the tower, we have the NECA Conjuring 2 Crooked Man, since he doesn't really fit anywhere, but I wanted to display him. Same goes for the Sonic Movie 3 Shadow, since I think he's the best of the new movie figures. Moving to the right, and we have a bit of a small display for one of my favorite DC teams, the Justice Society of America. It's a little smaller right now, featuring only the DC Universe Classics Hourman, the McFarlane DC Multiverse Alan Scott Green Lantern, and Hush Superman with his temples painted white to represent the Earth 2 Superman, the DC Direct First Appearance Jay Garrick Flash, and the Mattel DC Total Heroes Hawkman, but with the DC Multiverse Red Robin wings. There's going to be a couple more Justice Society members coming in the McFarlane Multiverse wave with Wildcat and Power Girl, and I'm going to be pretty excited to add those two to this display. You've probably noticed him. Behind the Justice Society, we have the Marvel Universe Masterwork Sentinel, since, like these two over here, he doesn't fit anywhere else, but for a different reason. He's just way too big, and he's one of the coolest figures I have. Moving to the end of this top display, we have two different sets. The DC Universe Classics Crime Syndicate of America 5-pack featuring Ultraman, Owlman, Power Ring. Fun fact, this half yellow, half Green Lantern came with a DC Universe Classics Green Lantern vs. Sinestro 2-pack. And for the other members, we have Superwoman and Johnny Quick. This is a really cool set, and I'm really happy to actually have all 5 of these guys. But behind them is the Mezco 1/12 Reverse Flash, or Zoom. It's the box with everything inside it except the figure, since I just have him on my desk since it's a really cool figure. But hey, I think it works well as a backdrop for these guys, since, you know, it's an evil Flash. These guys are the evil Justice League. The Crime Syndicate are a fitting segue to the next section of the display, my DC Heroes and Villains display right below them. As you can see, right in the middle, we have the DC Universe Classics Superman, and a bit of a spoiler, there's a lot of DC Universe Classics figures here, facing off against Mattel's new 52 Darkseid figure. I don't really have many other Darkseids, and the only other two are the movie version from McFarlane and the recent classic Darkseid, which is my preferred design, but this one feels like the right size for Darkseid to me. He's big, but not giant. Behind them is the McFarlane Anti-Monitor Megafig, and I had to make him, you know, the sort of big looming centerpiece, since Crisis on Infinite Earths, where the Anti-Monitor was the main villain, is probably my favorite DC story just ever. Moving to the right, though, and we have, once again, DC Universe Classics Wonder Woman. This figure is a bit skinny for my liking. I imagine Wonder Woman as being, you know, pretty strong. And she's facing off against Cheetah, but this is actually the Hasbro Marvel Legends Tigra. I just think it actually works really well as a Cheetah figure. Moving over here, though, we have DC Universe Classics Green Lantern. This is specifically John Stewart, which came in a Green Lantern 5-pack, facing off against the DC Universe Classics Sinestro. This came in the aforementioned Green Lantern and Sinestro 2-pack that came with that half Green Lantern, half Yellow Lantern power battery. Behind them is the Mattel DC Multiverse New 52 Doomsday Build-A-Fig, since he's pretty cool looking. And next to him is the McFarlane DC Multiverse Lobo, which looks fantastic. Moving on to another Build-A-Fig though, we have the McFarlane DC Multiverse, Solomon Grundy from Arkham City. In front of them, though, we have some more comic-based figures. Starting off with the Mattel Total Hero Steel, since I just think he looks plain cool, and I've had this figure for a while. And he's defeated the Superman villain, Parasite. Once again, DC Universe Classics, and this is one of my favorite figures from the line, because just look at him. I mean, that's just a fantastic sculpt. Next to them is the DC Universe Classics Captain Marvel aka Shazam, facing off against Black Adam from the same line. There were single releases of both of these to my knowledge, and there was also a 2-pack release. I don't really know which ones these are from though, since I got them loose. Moving to the left though, we have a couple things to look at. Starting off with the Dark Knight, World's Greatest Detective, Batman. This is the Mattel DC Multiverse Super Friends Batman with a bit of a repaint and a new cape, and he's defeated both Bane. This is the DC Direct Nightfall Bane, and the Mattel Batman Mission 6-inch Riddler. Interesting thing about this figure, he's actually transparent in the suit area, which I think was an interesting touch. Next to Batman is another figure from that Super Friends subline, Aquaman, and he's facing off against the Total Heroes Black Manta. And this figure came with a lot of accessories, which I'm always a fan of. Behind Batman, though, is the DC Universe Classics Martian Manhunter, facing off against the DC Universe Classics Mongol. I really like both of these guys. They look really cool, and I don't even know if they've actually fought, but Mongol fights Superman, Martian Manhunter is pretty similar to Superman. It works out. Behind them is the goofy The Suicide Squad King Shark from McFarlane, who I just love. Next to him is the McFarlane Atrocitus Build-A-Fig from DC Multiverse, which is a stunning figure to have. And over here at the end is the McFarlane DC Multiverse Lex Luthor. It's odd to not have him facing off against Superman, but hey, I think him facing off against Darkseid is still pretty fitting. Moving down again though, and this is pretty clearly my biggest display. My Marvel Legends display. Starting out at the front, and how else should we start but with Marvel's first family and their greatest villain? The retro-carded Fantastic Four, repainted to be in their Jack Kirby designs, along with the Toy Biz Marvel Legends Human Torch, which is the best Human Torch I have, in my opinion at least, and the Marvel Legends Cabal 3-pack Doctor Doom, which is an amazing figure. Behind them is, of course, the Devourer of Worlds Galactus, the first ever Build-A-Fig in the Toy Biz Marvel Legends line, and just in general. Since to my knowledge, this was the first Build-A-Figure ever made. Now moving over to the left, we go from the Fantastic Four to the Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes. We have to start off with my favorite Marvel hero and villain, Captain America versus the Red Skull. I have Red Skull, of course, holding the Cosmic Cube, and Captain America's charging straight at him. Cap is from the Red Onslaught Build-A-Figure wave, and the Red Skull is from the Zemnu Build-A-Fig Villains wave, although I did give him Dormammu's hands, since I just think Red Skull with red hands instead of lime green gloves looks a bit better. Moving on to the main Avengers team, and there's a lot to look at here. Starting at the front, I'd say, we have Hawkeye. This is from the Marvel Legends 60th Anniversary of Avengers collection, and the same goes for this Target exclusive superposable Black Widow. These are both fantastic looking figures. I especially love the little bits of metallic paint used on some parts of Hawkeye. Next to them, though, is the Marvel Legends classic Doctor Strange, which is, in my opinion, and many others' opinion, the definitive Doctor Strange figure. All these three are either attacking or about to attack some of the Avengers' greatest villains. At the front, we have the Taskmaster, also from the Cabal 3-pack. Charging at him is Black Panther. This is the comic Black Panther from the Wakanda Forever wave, and he's, in my opinion, the best Black Panther you can get. Next to the Taskmaster is Ultron, the supercomputer menace built by Hank Pym. About to attack him is the Vision. This is the retro carded version, and yes, there was a recent classic Vision that some would say is an upgrade, but I love the metallic paints on this guy, and I got him for really cheap, so I have no urge to replace him. Behind Ultron, though, is the Mad Titan Thanos. This is the deluxe Infinity Gauntlet version, although with the Walmart exclusive Thanos head, because unfortunately my regular Thanos head got chewed up by a dog. About to attack Thanos and Ultron is the Incredible Hulk. This is the Toy Biz Marvel Legends Face-Off version, and it's one of the best Hulks, especially by Toy Biz. Behind Thanos is the power-copying 12-inch Super Adaptoid, also from the Avengers 60th Anniversary line. And of course, we have to represent the villain that brought the Avengers together, Loki. This is the MCU Loki TV show classic Loki body, but with the retro-carded comic Loki head. And three different Avengers are all trying to attack Loki. Being Iron Man, this is the modular Iron Man from the Ursa Major wave. I originally put the Marvel Legends Series 1 Toy Biz Iron Man in here since he was one of the first Marvel Legends ever made, but I don't know. This modular Iron Man is spectacular. Behind him is the retro-carded Wanda Maximoff Scarlet Witch, ready to counteract Loki's magic with her own. Behind Loki is his good-hearted half-brother, Thor Odinson, from the Marvel Legends 80th Anniversary collection inspired by Alex Ross, about to hit both Loki and Thanos with his hammer Mjolnir. And finally, in the very back, we have Falcon from the Joe Fixit Build-A-Fig wave, soaring above, as, well, a Falcon does. But on the right, we have to represent Marvel's Merry Mutants with the X-Men and some of their villains. And there's a lot of new additions to this side of the collection that I just made today due to some figures arriving in the mail. Of course, we have to start out with the field leader of the X-Men, Scott Summers' Cyclops. This is the recent Hasbro Marvel Legends Astonishing X-Men version, and it is a beauty. I think a lot of people would say it would make more sense to have a more 90s Jim Lee-inspired Cyclops to go with the rest of these guys, but I don't know. This figure is my personal favorite Cyclops since it just looks right. Of course, we have to represent the most famous member of the X-Men, Wolverine. And this is actually the first Marvel Legends version of Wolverine from Toy Biz, which was based off a figure that was included in the X-Men movie line in a 2-pack with movie Wolverine. Now, I do have the House of X brown suit Wolverine, and I think everyone would argue this is a much better figure, and I'd agree, but I think this Jim Lee 90s inspired Wolverine just fits more with the designs I have set up in this display. Well, minus Cyclops like I mentioned, And the two figures I'm about to talk about, Professor X and Jean Grey as Phoenix. Professor X is his movie version that came in a 2-pack with the movie Magneto. He's got the Patrick Stewart head on since, well, I just think an older Charles Xavier makes sense. And he's trying to send his psychic waves out, but, two of the guys here are kinda wearing helmets that block that type of stuff out, so it's pretty ineffective. What will be effective against them, though? Jean Grey as the Phoenix. Another Toy Biz Marvel Legends figure, which are fairly represented in this display. I just think this is a fantastic figure, especially all the shininess used on some of the gold parts of the costume. Flying in the air, or jumping in his case, just like Jean, is Nightcrawler. Another Toy Biz Marvel Legends, and this is one of their best. He's super articulated, just like Nightcrawler should be. The paint wash isn't overdone. The head sculpt, well, it doesn't fit so great, but what makes up for that is his bendy wire tail. Moving on to more Hasbro figures, though, we have two big guys. Beast from the Marvel Legends Caliban Wave, and the 80th anniversary Colossus that came in a 2-pack with the Juggernaut. Both of these guys really pop with their bright colors. One that doesn't have as much bright colors, as opposed to mostly black, is Storm. This is the retro card Black Suit Storm, and as usual, she's calling upon the powers of lightning to blast all the X-Men's enemies, as Storm does. Behind her, though, we have two more Toy Biz figures. The Toy Biz Angel, which is still fantastic. I'd say it still holds up. And granted, they did release a Hasbro Marvel Legends Angel in this costume very recently. But hey, I got my hands on this guy, and he still looks great, especially with all the paint and texturing in his wings' feathers. For a figure I was very excited to get recently, though, is Gambit. You know, Gambit's just a really fun character, and I think this Toy Biz figure is still pretty good. A lot of the wonky joints or anatomy are kinda hidden by this cloth trench coat, which isn't perfect, but hey, it works, and that's a pretty nice, cocky, confident Gambit smirk, and I really like the posing on this hand. His staff is from a McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Tim Drake, since I don't have the staff he came with, but I think it works pretty well. Next to him is his everlasting lover, Rogue. This is the Marvel Legends Savage Land Rogue, although I did give her the jacket piece from a Marvel Legends Black Widow, since, Rogue's pretty well known in her animated series look with the jacket, and I think that this sort of makes it closer to that. But as you can see, the X-Men are surrounded by some of their strongest villains. In the back, we have the Toy Biz Apocalypse Build-A-Fig sneaking up behind him, even though he's like 16 feet tall compared to them. One of the villains they've defeated, though, is one of the Sentinels. This is actually the Marvel Legends Kree Sentry Build-A-Figure from the Captain Marvel wave, but I think it works really well as a smaller Sentinel stand-in. Of course, the X-Men's greatest villain and also common ally is Magneto. This is the Marvel Legends Age of Apocalypse Magneto, just with a bit of repainting to make him a little more of a classic version. I did get the Toy Biz Marvel Legends Magneto recently, but he really ain't too great, and this one just looks a lot better in a display. A Toy Biz figure that does work fairly well in a display, though, is this Mr. Sinister from the Marvel Legends line. He's got mildly goofy proportions, but he just looks great, and Mr. Sinister always looks cool. Speaking of always looking cool, is the Juggernaut. This is the 80th anniversary Juggernaut that came in the same 2-pack as that Colossus, and he is fittingly hulking and giant. The X-Men are gonna need to put in a lot of effort to take this guy down. The most recent display I've set up, though, is this street-level fire escape display. Starting off we have the greatest DC Comics rivalry, Batman and the Joker. This is the McFarlane Toys Nightfall Batman and the McFarlane Silver Age Joker. I just think they mesh really well. Moving down a flight is the McFarlane DC Classics Riddler and the DC Essentials Nightfall Catwoman. She's obviously sucker punched Riddler in the gut, and she's going up to help Batman take down the Joker. Another flight down, and we have one of the greatest Marvel rivalries, Spider-Man versus the Green Goblin. This is the retro-carded Spidey, and you might have noticed that Spider-Man wasn't actually in my main Marvel display, and that's because I kind of want to give him his own display later down the line. If I do end up making that a reality, well, I might just make an update video. Of course, he's facing off against the Green Goblin. This is the Marvel Legends 2017 Sandman Wave version, and I've actually attached him to a flight stand, which is hanging on to one of the above floors to just make it look like he's floating, which I think was a pretty clever move. Down another floor, and we see Daredevil hanging on to one of the above flights, about to get the drop in on the Punisher. These are both from the Toy Biz Marvel Legends Urban Legends box set, and Daredevil's proportions are kind of weird, but I think they're a little mitigated when you get him in a sort of dynamic pose like this. Punisher looks great, though, and I really appreciate that he came with a rocket launcher in the box set. And yeah, Punisher knows that if he tries the fire, he'll end up killing both of them, which ain't great. Moving a little to the right, though, and we see Venom climbing up to either help Spider-Man or hurt Spider-Man. I don't know, it's sort of a day-by-day basis with him. And finally, down to the bottom, we have Deadpool from the Deadpool core box set. Not really sure if he should pull out one of his katanas or not. This was probably the most fun display to set up, and I'm really happy with how it came out. But there's one last display to go over. That's right, a display dedicated entirely to Batman himself. And there's just so much here, I'm not sure where to start. Let's start with the middle. So, headlining this display right in the center is the Revoltech Amazing Yamaguchi Batman. And this is a really interesting figure. It's one of those fairly expensive import figures, but the articulation is very non-traditional, and it does actually give him a lot of range. I just really like the aesthetics and look of this Batman, and also, I paid $50 for him. Of course I'm gonna have him headline the display. And in fact, I made a custom cloth cape for him, since the cape that he came with was kinda garbage. Next to him, though, are two very different early Batmen. The first appearance Batman from McFarlane Toys. This is an amazing figure. I reviewed him a bit back, like a couple months ago. And the McFarlane classic TV series Adam West Batman, which I reviewed very recently. Another amazing figure. Next to these two, though, are a black and gray and blue and gray Batman from Mattel's 6-inch Batman Missions toy line. It was a mainly kid-focused toy line that I actually bought a couple figures from a little after Mattel's license expired, and honestly, I just think there's a lot of charm in these guys. Next to them again, though, are two different McFarlane black and gray and blue and gray Batmen, but on the reverse sides that these four were on. We have the McFarlane Toys Bat Family 5-pack Batman using the Three Jokers body, and the McFarlane White Knight Batman, which is one of my personal favorite alternate Batmen that Todd McFarlane has released in DC Multiverse. Next to them, though, are two more matching body blue and gray and black and gray Batman. This is getting a little repetitive, but I promise the rest of this is a lot more interesting. Both of these are from Mattel's Arkham City line. This is the 70s Batman skin, and this is the just plain Jane Arkham City Batman. Next to them are two versions of Batman. This one is the Dick Grayson Batman from McFarlane Toys, and this is the Black Lantern Batman, also from McFarlane. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but these are both from the era where Bruce Wayne was killed by Darkseid, and this is actually the original Bruce Wayne brought back. At least that's what it seemed like at the time. I believe that actually sort of got retconned since Bruce came back just through time travel shenanigans. It's more complicated than that, but man, it was a fairly confusing story. It's nothing less confusing though. A plain Jane, kinda modern, kinda classic Bat family. We have the McFarlane Rebirth Batman, the Mattel DC Multiverse Rebirth Red Robin Tim Drake, and simple classic comics Alfred, along with the DC Collectibles Arkham Knight Red Hood, and all these guys are standing around the Batmobile. This is a Mattel 12-inch version that I've given a bit of a repaint to make it seem more like a classic 1950s, 60s Batmobile, just with a slightly more modern design. Moving over to the right, though, and we have a sort of mishmash of different Batmen, just in general. At the front, we have 4 different Lego Batmen and some of their vehicles. We have this one, which is the body that came with this Lego Batmobile, but the head inside the helmet from a different one. We have 2 live-action versions, Adam West and Michael Keaton, along with the 1960s Batmobile. Both of these guys are really great. And a slightly more modern-ish Batman in front of a more modern Batwing. Behind them is this Mattel Classic TV series Bat Family 3-pack featuring Batman, Robin, and Batgirl. And these guys are really great, even though they aren't superposable. But hey, it's the Adam West Bat family. It's just a sight to behold. Behind them, though, moving from the campiest Batman to one of the least campy Batmen, we have 3 figures from The Dark Knight Returns by 3 different companies. This is the Mattel DC Multiverse version in his blue and gray suit from near the beginning. On the right, we have the DC Direct Dark Knight Returns Batman, sort of leaping through the air, kinda like the first issue's cover, although not exact since this isn't a superposable figure. And in the middle, we have the McFarlane Toys Armored Batman from his legendary fight with Superman in the final issue. Although behind the big conglomerate of different Batman in the center, we have this giant Flash movie 12-inch scale Batwing that actually works a lot better for 6 or 7-inch figures. Overall, this is one of my personal favorite displays, and I'm really happy with how every single part of it comes together to sort of be a condensation of Batman's entire history. But hey, if you enjoyed this video, maybe give it a like if you're feeling a little generous today. And also, have a great day, 'cause you deserve it. Bye-bye!